Well, good afternoon, everybody. This is the 7-hour basket weaving class. But actually, what we're going to do today is talk about a lot of fun stuff. A couple of homework items before we get started. If you're in exit planning, 2 IRS forms I really want you to take a look at. It's IRS Form 8594. 8594. When you do a transaction, that's what the CPA does to document what you did. Phones, goodwill. And it's really helpful for us in the exit planning world to understand that post-transaction, some things have to happen. Another form, 8594. 8594. And it's even got instructions on it. Another good form for you to know is 6252. 6252. And that's when you carry an installment note with a transaction. For example, we're going to put 50% down, 25% in 12 months, another 25% in 24 months. Knowing about those 2 forms will help you better communicate with the seller CPA, because the seller CPA may have some thoughts on maybe we're too heavy in inventory to go to the market. Maybe we have too much phones and furniture. Maybe goodwill is going to be an issue. When you start having this preliminary discussion with the CPA, that CPA may have some insight that will be crucial so that the business broker, when they get ready to go to the market, they know the right buyer to be looking for. Versus just a buyer with a checkbook. What about a buyer that's looking for specifically what our clients bring into market so we can demonstrate the most value? Those 2 forms, you need to be a little familiar with them, okay? Well, good afternoon. My name's Ed Cotney. I'm from California, Sacramento, raised in Alabama, Roll Tide, just in case you're wondering. I do like to walk and talk. We're going to cover a lot of slides. Here's your scenario. You've just signed up a new client. The exit is planned for 18 to 24 months. We have an S-Corp, single shareholder. We're in the state of California where taxes are our friend. Just so happens it's a $5.5 million business, is what our projected sale value is going to be in 18 months. We've got about $500,000 of basis in this thing. Our client also owns the building. It's also worth $5.5 million. A lot of depreciation, got about a $500,000 adjusted basis on it, and no debt. He wants to go to market, sell it all. We're looking at an $11 million transaction, basically $1 million of basis, $10 million of gain. Everybody happy so far? He needs to be zero tax. He needs to be zero tax in this transaction. You got a $10 million transaction. What's the taxes in your state on $10 million? Where half of it's real estate and half of it's an operating business. Give me some numbers. How much? I got a 40 over here, 40, 40. How about a 42, 42, 42? It's not going to be comfortable. What if it was a C Corp? It's even less comfortable. But I'm going to show you some tricks today that you're going to go, man, I can't believe that. I make you 2 promises right now. Promise number 1, you're going to be happy you came. You're going to learn a little bit today. You're not going to be happy when you go home and look at your tax return from last year. You're not going to be happy. So I'm going to show you how to pay less tax for the rest of your life. I recommend you use this with your clients as well, okay? I wrote a book about some simple things over the years. Earlier today, somebody said writing a book's a really good thing. I wrote that book because I was so tired of getting phone calls and people asking me the same questions over and over and over. So I finally said, look, I'll send you a copy of my book, buy it on Amazon, whatever, read this chapter, that chapter, then call me back. Otherwise, I'm on the phone for an hour and a half not getting paid. This kind of stuff does help. Articles and things help, etc. All right. Real quick, my background, retired military for 20 years, had a great time. One of my wealthy water ski buddies sent me to fancy-dancy tax school to learn how to do stuff like Warren Buffett and Bill Gates and those guys do. And when I graduated from that school, I was so naive, I figured everybody in the country knew how to do zero tax planning. Yeah, it was kind of funny. All right, and by the way, we did sell his huge business with virtually no tax. I did a seminar similar to this out at William Jessup University in Rockland, California, about 2 months ago. You can see the seminar on YouTube if you want to type it on there. And basically, I was asked to come down to talk about income tax planning, selling a business. You know, so the room was comprised of business owners, attorneys, accountants, financial planners, plan giving officers, professors from the economics department. It was a good mix. And after the survey, after it was done, we sent them all a survey and asking them, of these 10 items, which do you think is most important? What's your pain point? And so, number one, 100% across the board for every respondent was income tax planning. Followed by creative retirement planning. I'm not dying today, but we need to address that. Look where we're at, okay? I thought that was kind of bad because I spend a lot of money on my membership in Vistage, okay? But anyway, that's how they rack and stack stuff. And I love Vistage and TAG and all these other groups. And by the way, if you want a copy of this right away, just leave me a business card saying, hey, send me a copy, and I'll fly you out a copy of this thing PDF, okay? So you don't have to worry about taking pictures and stuff. We already know clients have these primary objectives. Be profitable, happy, productive employees. I mean, these are things that we look for in a good business. 10 years old, 15 employees plus, great thing. I mean, is there anything here that's a surprise to anybody? As far as lawsuits go, your clients are getting what kind of lawsuits with their businesses? Contract defect? Yeah. What else? Wage and hour. Number one in California? HR, baby. Number two, environmental. HR is big business in California. The goal is to retire in style. And what's that number? Does anybody know what that number is to retire in style? That's different for everybody. So objectives, find the right buyer, right price, right terms. Employees continue, business moves forward. No brainer. Let's talk about things we're not talking about. That's kind of important. In fact, we've even had a couple classes here where people say, yeah, that's important. Happy wife, happy life, is that an objective? Yeah. Happy kids. Let's don't touch that one at all. If you go to my same church, okay, but if you're an East Indian, Muslim, you see where I'm going with this? We have difficulty talking about faith as an objective. Overwhelmingly, 70% of Americans donate to 5 or more charities every year. Did you know that? 70% of America donates to 5 or more charities every year. The 7 major religions on the planet all have a tithing component in their faith. But let's don't talk about that. Financial, safe numbers, code, tags. No crying, just numbers. We like that. At the end of the day, start asking questions about what's the purpose of my life, my wealth, my legacy. When you ask people a lot of times what's the purpose of their life, you kind of get the yeah answer. Then you start talking about what's the purpose of your money. It's funny when you start asking that question, what's the purpose of your money? And just be quiet. You get some interesting responses. And what do you want your legacy to be? Most people don't stop to talk about that. When we pull them back to start talking about legacy issues, the world opens up. Our greatest value add is asking the right questions, the hard questions, asking the why, the feel questions. Have you noticed that some of your clients you've had for years, when you ask them that question, define financial independence for me? 5 years later, define financial independence for me. 5 years later, you ever notice it's always going up? Most people don't know what it is. And another question that I like to ask people is that if you could change one thing today, what would it be? And the way I play that game is I'll say, okay, I need you to stroke a check right now for $25,000, and I need you to give it to one charity. What would it be? And sometimes, well, we don't know. I said, all right, let's do another little test. You got Thanksgiving coming up. Let's send a letter to your children letting them know at Thanksgiving you want them to give the recommendations on what charities to give that $25,000 to. It's going to be a different Thanksgiving, isn't it? What is mom and dad learning by beginning that scenario with the kids? Come for Thanksgiving, our tax person told us we need to give away $25,000. We'd like to have your input. Mom and dad are actually investigating their kids right now, aren't they? This can be fun. A lot of ways you can have fun with this. It's just money. Most of our clients, it's just money anyway. It's not a big deal. And what's going to stop them? I met with this guy 2 years ago. I went in blind, and I get this all the time. He was a contractor. I'm like, okay, contractor, trucks, tractors, handful of employees. Well, I get there, he has 800 employees. I asked him to have the tax return laid out when I got there, 4,000 pages. And I'm like, oh, Lord, I need to at least flip through some of this stuff to make it look like there was a reason for having all this. And I kind of knew where to go. Total income for him was 14, tax bill was 6.2, and he was upset about a $6.2 million tax bill. And I asked him, what's your net worth? He says, I'm north of 200, but I'm the poorest of all my siblings. I'm like, okay, have you made enough money? He says, yeah. I'm like, why are you still making $14 million taxable a year? You just need to stop making money if you can. He said, well, I got to do something. I said, well, you overpaid your tax return about $2.3 million last year, and the year before that, you overpaid about $2.4 million. Yeah, there's some work here for you to do. What am I telling this guy to do? Start giving it away. He has got to start giving money away. I'm going to show you how to do that today. Tax rates, decrease, stay the same, increase. Okay, everybody who says decrease, raise your hands. Well, if I asked this question 2 years ago, didn't we just see the tax code go down? And stay the same? Some things kind of increase. Yeah. I will tell you this, yes on all three. Here's the thing we don't know. What are going to be the new taxes? You remember when Bill Clinton was president? Over 600 new taxes. Didn't really change the rate, did he? That's what we got to be worried about, the new stuff. Globally, France, Denmark, Sweden, Finland, Italy, Greece, Germany, EU, Slovenia, Portugal, Spain, United Kingdom, Latvia, United States. It doesn't get much better. This is a great state to pay taxes in. This is also a great state that has 80,000 pages of tax code, and the sad thing is we only use about 2,000 of those pages. What's in the other 78,000 pages? Some pretty cool stuff. We've got to learn how to access it. So I love the IRS. They give me more tools to work with. God bless America. I love the IRS. And when you're in an audit, I love the IRS. They're great. They're smart. They're trained. They're there to be there. They know why they're there. California, the Franchise Tax Board, there's an audit. Who's next? With no training whatsoever, go audit this return. Be careful with the state stuff, okay? Anybody feel like they didn't pay enough? How many CPAs do I have in the room? Did any of your clients come back saying, I need to write a bigger check? Any of them? As far as TCJA goes, as far as the new TCJA goes, do you feel your clients paid more, the same, or less tax overall? I got some lesses, a couple of mores. It's a new code, new rules, new ways to do things. Got an investment opportunity for you. Okay, we're in a 40% tax rate, and the reality is we're going to take $1, and I can only take $1 from you. We're going to put that into an investment, and that investment is going to double, okay, every year, starting on day one. So you give me $1 today, next year it's going to be $2. Well, we're in a 40% tax rate, so I lose 40%, so now I got $1.60 the next year to double. Now I got $3.20 minus 40% on the growth. You see where I'm going with this? So at the end of 21 years, my dollar turns into $139. God bless America, it's a wonderful thing. If I put that dollar into an IRA, 401k, qualified plan, anything where there's no taxes today, how much money is that dollar going to be worth in 21 years with no tax haircut? Watch this. The power. It's the only reason why people like qualified plans. It's the only place we as America can put money and not get a haircut on growth. Taxation kills wealth. Does that make sense? Not that there's any such thing as an investment like that, but if anybody does run across something that grows 100% a year, please call me. I'd like in on that. And I don't care if it's taxable or not. I'd rather have $139 versus $1 in 21 years. So we live in a confiscatory tax system. We make money. That's our personal wealth. And as we pay the tax, which is the money we surrender, and that the government gets it as a donation, you do realize the IRS technically is a not-for-profit, right? So everybody in here that's in the 50% tax bracket, thank you on behalf of the United States for being one of our greatest philanthropists. You is a philanthropist. Did you feel good about that dollar you gave the IRS? Yeah, that's another discussion. Tax rates changed, 7 brackets. California, we're 13.3 on income over $1 million. We're shooting for 15 under our new leadership. God bless America. Cap gains, didn't see a lot of changes. Gift tax, $15,000 a year transfers, 709s. You know the beautiful thing about a 709? If you document it properly, 3-year statute of limitation rule, baby. It's one of the best tools in the world to make the IRS go away. 709, 3-year statute rule. Learn about those puppies. This gift exemption here of $11.4 million for unified credit when we die. Who thinks that's going to remain $11.4 million past 2026? Raise your hands high. You think so? Think? Everybody think it's going to sunset and go back to the old rules? I'm pretty confident it's going to drop down to about 6 if we're lucky. So if I've got a client today and I'm a great financial planner and I'm using the rule of 72 in everything I'm doing with my client because I'm that good. If my client has $10 million today, what are they going to have in 7 years? You know, we're going to be subject to estate taxes in 20. You see where I'm going with this? Don't close your ears to 706 planning and estate tax planning. We're not done with that monster. It's going to come back. Here's an interesting thing that I do a lot. 60% of all ordinary income is optional. 100% of capital gains taxes are optional. 100% of estate tax is optional. Hang on, let me get my camera out because every time I show that picture up here, people are looking at me like, dude, you're going to get hit by a bolt of lightning. True or false? True. The only people paying capital gains taxes are people who enjoy paying them. The only people paying estate taxes are people who enjoy paying them. I'm going to prove that out for you today, okay? Reactive tax planning. This is normal stuff. Would you give me a cup of water? Oh, there's a cup of water back there. Would you grab me a cup of water, please? Thank you. This is stuff we see everywhere, right? Every place this is normal. Reactive tax planning. Proactive tax advice. Advanced retirement planning. Customized pension planning. Advanced 401ks. IRA LLCs. I mean, all that other stuff is really great. Thank you very much. Who knows what that is? If you have clients in manufacturing and engineering, go to their office. It's amazing how many times I go to their office, they're not doing R&D tax credits. People go, well, it costs a lot of money to set up. All right, so I'm going to set up a software company. I'm going to get all the brainiacs on board. We're going to spend the next 3 years building out this software thing, and it's going to go public, baby, in 5. All that work I've done for the last 3 years on top of my standard expenses, employee expenses, in other words, the standard stuff over here, the key here is to prove you're failing on R&D tax credits. Document it that you're failing. Here's the beautiful thing about an R&D tax credit. The operative word here is credit. It's a dollar for dollar credit. You know what the carry forward are on these puppies? 20 years. So if I've got $1.8 million of R&D credits because of losing my butt the last 3 years designing this technology and hadn't got profitable yet, and I'm going to sell my company in 4 as the third party, and I'm sitting here with $1.4, $1.8, $5 million of R&D tax credits, somebody was awake. But you got to document this stuff and you got to claim it before the income event gets here. It's a beautiful thing. Cost seg studies, who knows what that is? What is it? That's right. So I go into somebody's business manufacturing, there's a big machine thingy bopper over there, maybe it's painted blue, it's taking up about 2,000 square feet. Is that a possible cost segregation study? Yeah. And what we're going to do is accelerate the depreciation on that piece of the building by 7 years. And then people go, well, Ed, if we do that, it's going to increase the capital gains tax event. Slide earlier, I said, what was capital gains taxes? Optional. Accelerate the daylights out of that stuff. Apply it to your income projections. This way you maximize the tax efficiency on the cost seg. You can do this on rental buildings. It's amazing the number of things you can use a cost segregation study on, okay? Learn a little bit about that so you can be looking for it. Anybody know what that is? Any lawyers in the room know what it is? Do you know what all the letters stand for? Most people don't. Interest charged domestic international sales corporation. So many words involved, it's like, we need a short thing here, buddy. If you're exporting something overseas, it's a cool thing. Does it have to be a hard item like a generator or something? Can it be walnuts? Can it be rice? Can it be corn? Can you do co-ops with the IC disk? It's a beautiful way to get some tax benefits off exporting stuff overseas. Is it for everybody? No, but if you're exporting something overseas and you're paying more than $100,000 here in taxes, that needs to be a discussion point. One loophole here. Can I put untaxed money in a Roth? Can I put untaxed money in a Roth? I got a no, a no, no. Any yays in the room? I got one yay. Right there, there's a provision in an IC disk where you can redirect part of the money directly into a Roth. IRS is all over this. They've already lost 5 court cases. They don't know how to fight it. But they will come up with a way to fix this rule. So there is a way of using this. Lots of weird rules here. But that is the only exception I've ever seen of putting untaxed money in a Roth. Anybody seen any other exception to putting untaxed money in a Roth? You have?
Yeah, there's non-business under it,
Yeah.
There's a military provision if you die inactive.
Yep.
Life insurance.
Yep.
You can go into a Roth within a year.
You're the first person to ever say that. And that is true. Okay? That is very true. Work opportunity tax credits, WOTC, new employment tax credits. You guys familiar with any of this stuff? If your client's hiring 20, 30, 40,000 people, chances are there's some tax benefits here. Transferable tax credits. Anybody know what that market is? I've got a bunch of tax credits, and I live in a state that allows me to sell my credits to you. Some states allow us to do that. California doesn't, but if I've got some credits that I can't use and apply, there's a market for that stuff. So if I can buy a credit that's worth $1 and my cost is 45 cents, are you kidding me? That's free money. How much money have I got? Charitable retirement planning. We're going to touch on that just a little bit today. Real quick, how many people have actually done the process of selling a charitable trust? I don't mean doing a 1041 or managing the money. Cradle to grave. Client comes in, let's do a charitable trust, and let's get it implemented. Anybody done more than, okay, I got some hands up. Anybody done more than 10? 5. It's a short list. Most lawyers, 1 out of 50 will do a CRT their entire career. 1 out of 50 their entire career. So you got to look for these specialists when you're going to do these charitable trusts, okay? Love these things. And insurance planning, there's so many beautiful things in the insurance planning. It's just amazing, boggles my mind. The thing I love about the insurance industry, some of the most creative minds in the country work in the insurance industry. It's amazing what comes to the table, isn't it? All right, so 80% of the advisors in this country I categorize as reactive. 20% are stepping over the edge a little bit. Let's do something a little more advanced. So you start whittling things down real quick. I got this phone call 2 years ago. So we got 3 weeks to fix a $12 million tax bill. Everything's done. We're just waiting on the dust to settle and the checks to be written. What do you say? What if they called us 6 months prior, before we did purchase agreements and stuff? It's a different story, isn't it? That close to close, can't fix that. And I even told these knuckleheads, don't call me last minute because I can't fix that. This was only the $33 million transaction of the overall $350 million transaction that was about to happen. So, yeah, we like to stay in our zone, our box, our comfort zone. What makes money for us every single day? That's where we tend to stay. And as a result of that, we don't look for these other things that we have to think about, okay? So are there better ways to skin this kitty cat? And yes, there are. So the purpose of the government taxing us is so that they can collect money to basically cause social capital. The government takes money from us so that we can pay for roads and government and military and welfare and all these things. It's social capital, right? We call it income, but tax, but it's really just social capital. It solves the needs of the country. So as I make money from income, cap gains, I give somebody too much money, I inherit too much money, we have to surrender a certain portion of that money to support the common good of the nation. Amen? Got to have it. I give the IRS $1 last year. That's how much did something. Your tax bill 27% of it actually did something. What happened to the other 73%? Debt service, fraud, witness abuse, no benefit to anybody. It did not help. I give $1 to a worthy charity. Most charities do a good job. Yeah, there's always a bad one. But most charities make more money happen. So from an economics perspective, if I'm going to give the IRS $1 to solve this nation's problem where they have 27% efficiency, or if I'm going to give $1 to a worthy organization that's going to have 85% efficiency, which one of these $2 is doing the most good for this country? Amen? We've got to help people understand if we want to start solving problems in this country, we need to start moving more money in the philanthropy sector and less to the IRS waste our money sector. Does that make sense? Okay. I'm building this to get you to a point to see something here in a minute. From day one, we have taught you how to give money wrong to charity. Remember being 5 years old, you went to church, synagogue, temple, whatever. You got in a Sunday school room, teacher gave you a little white envelope, kind of wrote your name on it if you could at 5, and remember mom or dad gave you like a nickel or a dime, a quarter, so you could stick that in the envelope and lick it and give it to the son. You remember this? Or sometimes you put it in an offering plate so that we could teach you the importance of tithing at a young age. And so you can continue doing this wrong. So that you can continue doing this wrong. So that you can continue doing this wrong for the remainder of your life is because of the law of primacy. We taught you how to do this. And overwhelmingly, when somebody teaches us how to do something, whether right or wrong, we tend to do it that way for the rest of our lives. I want you to be the disruptor. And I'm going to show you how to make your clients money by stopping that. Let's change the way we're doing that, okay? So let's build some legacies. But more importantly, let's start taking the baby steps to help the clients understand why we're trying to do this. How do we build legacies, okay? We don't wait for the big transaction, go, hey, let's do a $5 million CRT. It's probably not going to float because we haven't taken any baby steps with the client yet. I like to call this engineering social entrepreneurship. Business owners connect to this. So we still make money. We have this commitment where we have to give money to support the social needs of the nation. Notice my personal wealth is a little bigger here because they got some nice tax benefits. And then we got some worthy charities getting money. Notice I don't have the IRS here, but who all likes that little bitty red box instead of the big red box we saw earlier? See where I'm going with this? Let's help people understand how to do this. They were supposed to have these things printed for you guys so you can play with this, but here's 1040. Here's the backside of 1040, and here's Schedule A. All right. Notice the forms are a little bit smaller, shorter, simpler. What you don't know, the CPA world, is that all we're turning in is page 1, page 2? No, there's a couple attachments that go along with this. So I don't know if we really achieved any big goal here, but overwhelmingly, did we reduce the number of Schedule A filers to the IRS? And the answer is yes. That's what the service was trying to do. Name, address, phone numbers, sign here, marital status, zip code, CPA. Backside, all your sources of income. Technically, do I have to claim all sources of income? Is it required by law? Yes. Technically, do I have to claim the mortgage interest deduction on my house? Charitable contributions, expenses from my business. IRS cares about one thing, right? Did you claim all sources of income? So here we have taxable income, line 10, the red line. Pretty much, there's a few little things over here. Has anybody ever seen these little bitty boxes over here really dramatically change the outcome of a taxable adjusted gross income? No. So if I've got $1 million of income right there on line 10 after my CPA has pulled off every miracle known to man, including trying to hide my dry cleaning bill, okay? If I'm in California with a 50% state and federal tax bracket and I have $1 million AGI, what's my state and federal tax bill? 50% is $500,000. That math work? I like to use round numbers so we can learn faster. Your state may be a little bit less, but we're trying to be more than 50. Notice here on schedule, on line 8, talks about the standard deductions. They're very generous. A lot of people will not get to claim charitable income tax deductions no more because they don't have a lot of income and they only gave $312 to the church. They're actually better off with this set of rules. Okay? Schedule 8, Medical, taxes I paid, interest I paid. Down here, gifts to charity. Cash, stock, carryover, total amount, bottom of line down there. Remember, we shortened Schedule A this year. They cut off about 5 questions. So whatever that bottom number is down here, I take that back. Is it bigger than this number? Okay, let's look at that. It just so happens we made $50,000 cash gift to the church. It goes right there, doesn't it? Peter, what's you got a church up in Reno? Which one is the church up there? Unitarian Church. I give them $50,000. Do I get a $50,000 tax deduction? Get a letter, goes right there, carry it back over to Schedule A, and it goes right there because $50,000, assuming I had nothing else in that Schedule A, $50,000 goes there. Now what's my taxable income if my income was $1 million? $950,000. So technically, my tax bill just went from $500,000 to $475,000, didn't it? So here, I gave the Unitarian Church 50 cash, and it bought me $25,000 in tax savings. Anybody else willing to spend $50,000 on $25,000 of benefits, raise your hands high. Come on. Surely, remember, we have taught them since they were 5 years old to do that. Are you with me? Anybody here manage money? All right, let's have a little fun. Your client came into your office 10 years ago with $40,000 and said, Peter, here's $40,000. Let's go buy 4 $10,000 thingies. Here we are 10 years later. One thingy's worth $110,000. Great choice. Another thingy's worth $90,000. Another great choice. This thingy here did good, but it's been dead on arrival now for about 6 years. Who all wants to keep owning that dead on arrival investment, dirt or stock? But if I sell it, what happens? Crap, I got to pay capital gains. And then this one right here, it just, boy, that hot stock tip was not very hot. I know none of you have portfolios that have ever looked like that. These are your other advisors that you know that you're stealing those clients from, right? But just in case, one day you have a client with a portfolio like that, is it better to give that $50,000 for the stock, or is it better to give that $50,000 of cash to the Unitarian Church? Why? Who said that? Why? Amen. Here's the deal. When you put it on paper to the client, you're going to take that $10,000 asset that you have money in, you're going to give it to the church. It's going to buy you $25,000 of tax savings. I just made $15,000 off the IRS. Didn't I? Church still got 50. They don't care if it's cash or stock. But by doing it this way, I just made 15 grand off the IRS. Not only that, my client comes in saying, I'm going to give that $50,000 to the church. Wait a minute. Let's take that $50,000, put it in this investment portfolio. Let's cull out that crap that's been dead on arrival for 6 years. Let's give that to the church. You are messing up the way they've been taught wrong. Now you're teaching them how to make smart, efficient gifts. You're taking your first baby step into the world of legacy planning. Because your client is now going to go, we should have been doing this for the last 20 years. You just became the guru that helped them maximize their gifts for the lowest cost. What if the client needs a whopper tax deduction? They give the $110,000 block of stock to the church. They get a $110,000 fair market value deduction to go on Schedule A. What did that $110,000 gift cost him? $10,000. So there's power in giving appreciated assets to nonprofit organizations. You guys follow me? Because if you don't get this, you're going to totally waste the rest of your half hour with me, okay? We're good on this, right? $50,000 cash bought $25,000 in tax savings. $10,000 of stock bought me $25,000 in tax savings. Got to know that. I'm going to send you guys a test question by email, okay? Are we learning? Remember, I'm from Alabama. 2-digit IQ is all it requires to graduate. Here we go. So we teach people tax loss harvesting on this piece down here at the bottom. Oh, we lost $9,000. And let's go ahead and sell it. And then we'll apply that against some other appreciate. Hey, let's try to stay away from that thing, tax loss harvesting. At the IRS, you know what they call that? A participation trophy. We appreciate you putting money at risk. Too bad you lost it. But since you did, we'll let you claim this to offset some future tax deductions. Here's your trophy. You paid for that tax savings. It was your money. Let's try to stay away from that. So as soon as I start seeing something like this flatten out, hey, let's talk about your giving for this year. We got some stock here that's kind of flatline. Maybe we should cull that puppy out and give it right now. Amen? All right, that's charitable tax loss harvesting versus just regular tax loss harvesting. Trick question. I made $1 million this year. What's the maximum amount of money or assets I can give to charity? Trick question. What's the max amount of assets or money I can give to charity this year? Who? I got $1 million. As much as you want. Fluffy got it. There's no limit. If I want to give the church $25 million this year and I made $1 million, there's no law against that. What is the technical issue here? How much you can claim. Okay? So there is no limit on giving. There is a limit on how much you can claim. Bumped up to 60% this year on cash. Stayed the same for appreciated assets. So if I have $1 million of income, technically I could give $600,000 cash or $300,000 in stock. That make sense? So when I'm looking at my client's portfolio and listening to their philanthropic objectives, I want to be careful of, oh, we got about $800,000 of bad stock. Well, does it make sense to pull all $800 out now? You got to balance this stuff when you're making big gifts. Got to think about this. So the maximum amount is 60 for cash, 30 for this. That is a test question. Okay? Current gift versus future gift. So when I give this $50,000 a block of stock to the Unitarian Church in Reno. I love Reno. It's a great town. I get a current fair market deduction because they have ownership, possession, and dominion is what the IRS calls it. They have ownership. I get a current fair market value deduction. If I put that $50,000 in something where the church is not going to get it for 25 years, do I get a current fair market deduction? Why? The answer is correct. I don't. It gets reduced, doesn't it? Because the charity doesn't get the money till down the road. So this is where people get confused. I'm going to make this so simple it's not funny. So our client decides to put $1 million cash into their CRT. Okay? This one's age 55. That's his tax deduction. Another client does the same thing. $1 million into CRT. He's 75. Why is the deduction different? Yeah, one's closer to seeing God than the other one is. So they get a better tax benefit. Life expectancy, AFR rates, and all these other things apply here. But the longer you're going to live, the smaller your tax deduction. The longer the charitable trust pays out, the smaller your tax deduction. There is an art to this. I can't tell you how many times I've seen a charitable trust written where I'm sitting there going, all right, we got a 22% payout for lives plus kids. Yeah, that thing's going to implode. It's never going to survive. So there are some issues here as far as tax deductibility for future gifts arriving, but I could do the gift today. I put $1 million into a charitable trust today. Do I have a degree of asset protection on that money in the CRT? Yeah, I do, don't I? The income coming out may be subject to adjustment, but the money in that CRT has a degree of asset protection. So we put these monies into the CRTs or stocks or dirt or whatever. There are some calculations here that make things work for us. How are we doing on time? We got, 20 minutes left? Okay. Connecting the dots. So if we can start getting some tax savings now, put monies into charitable instruments where I can reserve the right to turn the power on, the switch later. I mean, just because I put money in a charitable trust today, the last thing I may need is more taxable income if I'm 5 years away from my horizon line to sell my business, right? I just want the stinking tax deduction. We'll put the money into the trust, reserve the power to turn it on later down the road or set it up for a certain date or something like that. As I'm throwing more assets in that charitable trust each year, all that growth is still being imputed. This is a beautiful thing. So I'm funding my deferred comp defined benefit customized pension plan. I still have money left over. I've got an investment portfolio with a lot of weird stuff in it. Maybe I'm going to start shoving stuff over there in the charitable trust just to clean up my portfolio. Too many times people say, Ed, I don't want to set that charitable trust up because I got to start taking the income. No, you don't. Here's another thing I get all the time. I don't want to set that charitable trust up now because I got to identify these charities, and some of these charities I might not like in 15, 20 years. Did you know you have the right to have the charitable trust designed where the donor can reserve the right to amend the charitable beneficiaries? So if this charity really makes me mad, if my attorney had a 3-digit IQ and we designed this thing, 8 years later, and I get this call all the time, I hate this charity. How do I fix it? Let's read the trust. Well, you're going to the courthouse. Because you can go to the courthouse and get these things changed for a small fee. Charity going to be happy with this? No. Reserve the right to modify the charitable beneficiaries. Make certain that's in your trust document. Another thing that I see not in trust documents, we talk about the CRT, client goes home, gets on the internet where it's full of information and no wisdom, and they figure out, well, if we fund that CRT with $1 million today, and my wife and I die in a horrible parachuting accident in Cabo, that means the charity is going to get that $2 million. Well, that's one way to design it. A mo better way, as we say down in Alabama, why don't we put a provision in here that says this charitable trust shall be required to pay out for the first 20 years where the mommy and daddy are alive. Mommy and daddy die in 2 years in Cabo. That means we still have 18 years remaining on that provision. Guess who gets that income? Little Johnny and little Susie. It's still taxable. And when the trust has met its 20 years, at this point, that trust just penciled out. Think about that. The reservation is, I'll put the money in here. I'm worried about my kids. I still want to help charity, but if I die in the short term, this probably, hey, let's put a provision in here for 20-year payout. Right there, we pencil. And mom and dad are like, I can change the charitable remainder man. I can do this with a 20-year payout. It is going to reduce my tax deduction just a little bit. Right there, we're sold. Every single time. Right there, we're sold. They want the tax benefits. They want an additional source of income in addition to their pension plan and everything else. We're sold. And we're sold because, remember 8 years ago when they came in trying to give $50,000 cash to the Unitarian Church, and we told them, no, let's do this. Let's give the stock. This way you have less cost in the gift. You got a better tax deduction. And here we are 8 years later talking about the transfer of $11 million business, and I want to introduce a charitable remainder trust to be part of the solution to solve this tax bill so we can sell zero tax. Step one, we're earning their respect and trust, getting them introduced to charitable tax planning, because this whole nation, you hear the word charitable, all you hear is, that costs me money. Charitable tax planning is how you make money. I'm going to prove it out. So new source of funding, maybe pay for some life insurance benefits, stuff like that we might need, retirement funding, legacy planning, endowed giving, and I'm already running about 5 minutes behind, so I got to speed up a little bit here. So here's our case. Mom and dad, S Corp. We've got $11 million transaction, plan to sell 2020. Estimated tax in California, 3.8, 3.5. Okay, some of your other states will be less. There's the building, gain. I'm just going to use 33% to make the numbers easy. Is it 33%? No, it's not going to be 33%. Tax, 1.6. Take home, 3.8. Commercial building, 500,000, 5 million gain. Because it's fully depreciated. Remember that little term, recapture tax? Yeah. And did Obama tax go away? Does anybody know? No, it didn't go away either. So it's still out there in play. $2 million tax on the building. Gain. Client takes home 7.3. IRS takes home 3.6. Investment advisors. What's your commission on that 3.6 next year? Would you rather have the entire $11 million under management? By the way, you've got to send me part of that fee from now on. All right, let's make this simple. Let's give the building to the charitable trust, the whole thing. There's no debt on it. It's a beautiful thing. With no planning whatsoever. That's the tax. That's the family benefit. 6% rate of return. They're going to die in 30 years. Just trying to make this simple math, okay? We give the building to the charitable trust. We now have a tax deduction. Holy moly, looky there. It is almost a complete offset. Now, it may take a year or two for tax returns to totally wash all this out. Everybody who wants to manage $11 million, clients who wants to have a 6% rate of return on $11 million. Yeah. Which income stream do you want? As the advisor, now that your client has $660,000, over $200,000 additional pre-tax income, just to keep apples to apples. Well, let's have this discussion about maybe buying a $5.5 million life insurance policy to replace that building we just put into the CRT so little Johnny and little Susie inherit another 5.5 tax-free. God bless America. Technically, who's paying the premiums and all that? Technically, IRS. Mom and Dad, we're going to buy this life insurance policy, but with all those new savings we got because you're charitable, we'll just have the IRS pick up the tab. Would that be okay? This is as easy as it gets. It's like shooting fish in a barrel because 8 years ago I did what? I moved their cheese. I changed the way they were taught wrong about charitable giving right there. That discussion works because I've earned their respect. No tax planning, charitable tax planning. Who wants 13? Who wants 19? Did we just make money doing charitable tax planning? This is easy stuff. Heirs, tax-free, $11 million under current law, probably going to change. Charity, $7 million. Why are these folks philanthropically inclined? Because their eldest son at age 14 died of brain cancer. You know that because 8 years ago, when you started talking about their giving cycles, you were able to discover what their hot buttons were about charitable giving and why. Remember those questions we began with? Social, emotional, spiritual. God bless America. Thank you, IRS, for letting us bypass all the taxes on the sale of the building so that we could have $18 million of extra money. Gotta love it. All right. Any financial planners in the room? Do you plan to sell your book of business one day? So we have this charitable trust. We got $5, $6, $7 million in that thing theoretically when we die. We can disperse all the money to charity right there. Think about all the charities in your town and like maybe your church. Pastor, handful of administrative people, budget $600,000 a year. Let's drop $7 million on them next year. Oh yeah, this is going to be a disaster. So another good discussion to have with mom and dad is, you know, if we're going to end up with $5, $6, $7 million, would you be open to maybe giving money to charity from the grave forever? So let's endow that money. Financial planners, do you get to manage money post-mortem in an endowment and get a commission off that? What did I just do to your income after mommy and daddy are dead? Well, that $7 million and the endowment's still cooking along. What did I just do to the value of your book of business when you get ready to sell? And you got 10 of these puppies sitting there. Again, just send the commission fees to me. These are discussions people want to have. It's just nobody's helping them doing it. Everybody wants to support charitable orgs. There's tons of things we need to solve in this nation. I can't fix the entire country, but that client can fix something that's important to them. The guy that had the $14 million income and $6 million tax bill, after I made him feel really bad and told him he needed to stroke a check for $2, gave it to build homeless shelters. Feels a lot better. As a contractor, he's loving it. So did we do that? We had personal income. We maximized our tax deductions on top of the normal planning we should do. Picked up some charitable planning. We got some nice tax deductions, increases our personal wealth, big money to charity, and I really love it when the numbers can make that red completely disappear. Is that possible? Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Yeah, in your example, did you tax affect the annuity of the investment over your numbers of the 5, 10, 20-year period?
Yes, sir. I just went ahead and let it grow at 6. Yeah, it is. So I was just trying to keep things simple. Okay? Let's say my client has 3 buildings. There's debt on all 3 of them. Can I put debt encumbered assets into a charitable trust? No, it's not a good thing. All right, well, I got 3 buildings at $5 million a pop. Did this down in LA. So we got some debt, $5 million a pop. Well, let's move all the debt to one building. Would the bank work with us on that? Oh yeah, you bet they will. So now I got 2 debt-free buildings. Let's give one building to the charitable trust. Tax-free sale, big fat tax deduction. What do you want to do with this building? I don't know. Maybe half the building goes into a charitable trust, half as a sale. We get to start playing. This person, are they subject to estate taxes? Oh yeah. So I got an income tax deduction. I bypassed the cap gains on the sale of these puppies, and I just took that money out of their taxable estate. Total tax savings here, what? We're 72, 74% total tax effective? Yeah, they're loving you. So just move the debt to one building. All you have to do is be a specialist in all of these things. You know, there's no way for us to be a specialist in everything. So what I do as an advisor, I'll look for people that are specialists in one or two or three things. And when I'm working with a client and I go, that looks like this might work, I'm like coordinating. Let's bring in so-and-so because I think we have a way to fix this problem right here. This tool might work here. But does these tools work for every single client? No, they don't. The right tool for the right person at the right time is what we're trying to do for our clients. What I'm trying to teach in this class today is how to manage your 1040. All of our lives we've been taught personal income, taxable minus expenses, deductible expenses, okay, qualified contributions, fund my qualified plans to the max that I can. One caveat that I have on putting money in a qualified plan. Who knows what the tax rate is going to be in 10 years for that money in a qualified plan? So why are we putting monies into qualified plans? Even though we know the future tax is probably not going to be our friend. It's because it's the only way I can grow money right now without a haircut each year. Still makes sense. So the question becomes, if I'm going to endorse putting money into a qualified plan, does it make sense to also start talking to the client about when we start extracting that money from the plan, here are some tax strategies to soften that tax bill? Does that make sense? And so if I got a client who's now 70 years old, pulling $500,000 a year out of his qualified packages, that's going to be a tax bill, right? If they're philanthropically inclined, what could we do? Oh my gosh, they could keep throwing money in a charitable trust, get another tax deduction to increase their legacy footprint. Wow, what a concept. And if the Secure Act gets passed, everybody been watching that? You have got to start doing charitable tax planning with Roth conversions. That is where you're going to hit home runs. Just converting qualified monies into Roth, but that advisor who's doing conversions with charitable tax planning to solve the tax bill, yeah, people are going to get in line. Charitable retirement planning, that's what our tax code just did for us in TCJA. That's truly what it's doing. Imagine creating a superior retirement income strategy, maximizing my pension and charitable retirement planning programs. What if I could actually have enough money stored up there that I could transfer my business internally and not need a penny? Wow. You do realize that 2/3 of business owners prefer to do an inside transfer. We learned the other day, maybe 10% get to do an ESOP. The rest of us, we end up with a third-party sale because we're pushed into it. But imagine, I have a client right now, because of their qualified plan, shuffling $600,000 a year over that puppy for the last 3 years. We're selling their business because their employees are stealing them blind. They're sick and tired of dealing with employees, and they're like, let's just shut the stinking doors and walk. We got enough money. That pension plan gave them that ability. Now, granted, I'd like to see a little money come out of the sale of this business because it is about a $3 million business. More wealth to our heirs, legacy planning, impact causes forever. I mean, think about it. I mean, you guys, not your clients. Think about you having a goal to fund $1 million or $100,000 or whatever into some type of legacy model that when you die, charity benefits. Every night you get to put your head on your pillow. Man, I wish I was here to see what's going to happen to my money to those charities. Well, we can't, but till that day gets here, you can watch those charities, and you can know that you're going to be a big piece of that charity's success post-mortem. I love that stuff. It's because you started planting seeds right here, changing the way people give, okay, right there. All right, we got a few minutes for questions. The class is free. Questions are $50. Yes, sir.
I noticed like software for CPAs and
Yeah.
general planning and other things. Are there any software packages that for advisors?
Great question. Ed, is that 5 minutes? 5 minutes. A hard 5 minutes? All right, the question is, I'm not a CPA. Man, I wish I could do something with charitable tax planning to help my clients. One of the software programs I love is in Camarillo, California, a beautiful place. It's called Crescendo Interactive. Crescendo Interactive, like the Crescendo. Those guys are like the Nordstroms of tax planning, just brilliant people down there. But they've got a simple software system. It's like $150 a year. And what it does, the software is really great, but what it does, it makes it so you can call some of the top lawyers in the nation and get answers today. Hey, I'm looking at trying to do this with my clients, and they go, no, you can't do that. Your butt's going to go to jail. They're really great, okay? They also do these 2-day courses on charitable tax planning for $500. It is the best money you will ever spend learning charitable tax planning. Crescendo Interactive, they do these courses all over the country. So go to their website. They've got a great gift law program on the web. Just beautiful stuff. But the thing that I love the most about their systems, CRESCNDO Interactive, the biggest problem we have with donors pulling the trigger on these advanced strategies, we make them too complicated. We come in with 45 pages of charts and all these spreadsheets. They want one thing. That client, what we want to do is sit down with mom and dad, that's the money going in, this is the income, this goes to charity. This is your tax deduction, this is your lifetime income. That's it. Get no more complicated than that. That first meeting, we're going to put the $5 million building in here. We're going to get some tax savings of this. The income's going to be this. And this is what charity's going to get if you die on time. Leave those 40-something other pages at the house. Give that to the lawyer, the accountant, the other parties. Mom and dad want simple. And Crescendo does that. I love their software. I will say this. If you're going to be froggy enough to buy the software, go take the 2-day class. They do them in Chicago, Florida. It is worth, you will learn more in that 2 days of class with those guys than any CE you've ever gotten in your life on tax planning. Okay, even the tax lawyers go, they're going, oh my God, they didn't teach this to us in tax law school. Yes, sir. Who had a question here? Yes, sir. My book goes into just the basics because I reached out to folks saying, hey, what should I do? So first off, you're talking tax crap. Nobody wants to read more than 80 pages. Okay? Next, they don't want to read code stuff. They want to hear about stories and how to make things simple. And so basically I started writing this as TCGA was coming along. And I wrote the book really to just make it so that when people kept calling me, I could say, hey, your question, your answer is in chapter 6 or 8 or whatever. I go into business meetings going, here's a copy of my book. You know, if you got some tax questions, maybe give this to your CPA. Instant credibility with folks on the spot. But it's simple. I mean, it's almost cartoonish. And the other thing that I was advised, write like you talk. So yeah, 2-digit IQ Alabama, dangling participles and all, is in that book. My editor was like, you can't write like that. Yes, I can. Okay, so it is no compliance because I'm not a financial planner. I can write whatever I want. A what, sir?
Is there a book you would recommend?
Hardcore Tom Ray. He wrote the Charitable Tax Definitive Guide, $140, probably the most brilliant charitable tax planning guy in the country, up here in Colorado or Wyoming somewhere. But it's what all the lawyers go to when they try to do complex stuff. Tom Ray's book on charitable tax planning. But Crescendo is where you can get the most bang for the buck. Simple, easy, cheap, written in lay language so we can understand it and do it. Yes, sir.
You mentioned you can turn your delay taking the income from CRT. Is that net income makeup?
That is one option. There's 5 types of CRTs. We average about 2,000 to 3,000 new CRTs being introduced a year in this country. And I'm coming back to your question. Anyone ever heard of a charitable lead trust? How many are in existence in the nation? 6,700 last year. Lots of talk about charitable lead trust all the time. How many seminars we've been to about charitable lead trust? There's a whole 6,700 in the whole nation. Okay? When the AFR rate's great, low is great. But there are 5 types of charitable remainder trust. Each charitable remainder trust, you actually have things you can design to accomplish objectives in these things within reason of the code. The most common trust is a flip CRUT. I'm putting stuff in like real estate or cash. I don't want the income now. I want to reserve the power with a flip, like a light switch. The flip can be a certain date. The day I sell my business. The day I get married. The day my kid gets married. The one I like the most is a little soft. It's a sale of a hard-to-value asset. Let's go buy $20,000 worth of gold, put it into the CRT, have a third-party trustee. They secure the gold. And then one day we call and say, hey, we're ready to sell the gold. And as soon as the trustee sells that gold, trigger, income switch is turned on. Who knows when they're going to retire? Who knows when their clients are going to really sell their business? So I like that one a lot because it gives my client that ability, I don't know when I'm going to retire. No, I'm not getting married for the 4th time. I'm done. Okay? I just want the power to flip that switch on when I'm ready. I got one lady right now, a doctor, all upset. She's making $250 a year as a government doctor. We're closing on this story. And she's upset about her $45,000 tax bill. I don't even begin discussions with $45,000 tax bills, okay? But I'm like, all right, I'll come talk to her. Financial planner, hey, there's something happened a few years ago, huge $770,000 tax bill. She fired that advisor, now I'm her new advisor, and she's upset about a $45,000 tax bill. No kids, widowed, lives on $40,000 a year. When I met her, she says, Ed, I don't make a good first impression because I buy all of my clothes at the secondhand store except for my shoes and my underwear. I bought my first new car last year. She's 68. 2.5 in an IRA, $2 million in an investment account, $1 million paid off house, and a 2018 Nissan Spectra something. It's no bigger than one of these tables. Frugal as all get out. Who's going to inherit your stuff when you die? Well, I got $1.3 million going to my nieces and nephews, and they had it coming out of the IRA to the nieces and nephews. Are you kidding me? So let's give 1.3 out of the investment portfolio. It gets a step up in basis, zero tax transfer to the kiddies. And then the investment portfolio had a lot of, remember the dead on arrival stuff we talked about? Yeah, we had about 500. So we went ahead and grabbed 250, put that into a charitable trust, sold it in a charitable trust. What's the tax bill? Reinvested that, new portfolio going a new way. Picked her up, her age, about $140,000 tax deduction, which translated about $70,000 in tax savings for her. Is she happy? Yes, she's happy. Next year, what are we going to do? Look at that portfolio, clean it up, toss it in. We're going to keep doing this. The reality for her, is she ever going to need any income from that charitable trust? Probably not, because she's living on $40,000 a year. But to her, what if one day I need extra income? That safety net. Well, we just flip the switch on. If we've got $1 million in a charitable trust, we'll start sending you $60,000 a year the following January 1st. Okay, that sounds good to me. Oh, by the way, your IRA is going to be coming down the road real soon. 3.6 distribution on 2.5 mil. How much income is she now going to have on top of her 250? Now she's 350. Was not happy at all about that. So we introduced her to a thing called qualified charitable distribution, where if you don't need the RMD from the IRA, just send it VFR direct to the charity. She doesn't get a tax deduction, but the money never hits her 1040. She's like, I love that. I said, but one day we're going to be more than $100,000 because that's the cap. Well, what can we do then? I'm like, well, we got to do more money to get a charitable tax deduction. Throw more money over here, get more tax deduction, offset the RMD. Remember a while ago I said conversion of a Roth, IRA into a Roth with charitable tax planning? Wow, okay. So we ended up introducing the endowment concept for her. She dies on time, 7 mil. 1.3 tax-free to her nieces and nephews. IRA goes to the endowment, which you can do. IRA to the CRT, you can't do. Investment advisor sitting there going, oh my God, how much money am I managing? I said, it's not an issue of how much money you're managing, it's how long you're managing this money. It's forever. So she's going to end up with an endowment of $7 million plus. Isn't that cool? Not subject to estate taxes, only makes $250 a year, doesn't want any IRA distributions. But I started having her talk about the charities that she liked. Then I had her write a check to the San Francisco Orchestra to go down there. They immediately sent her an invitation, so she had a reserved parking spot out front and free tickets to be in the front row. She went down and had a great time. When she came back, what'd she do? Let's write another check. But we were giving them stock. Changed the way she was giving. Did you learn a little bit today? So here's what I want you to do. If you think learning about charitable tax planning and other things are important at future BEI conferences, leave a note that, hey, we want to learn more about the charitable remainder trust concept. We can have people come in here and show you how to do some of this stuff. Endowment structures planning, donor advice funds. I think there's a play for that in exit planning. Amen? Roll Tide. You guys have a great weekend. Great seeing you, okay?